Well, hi, welcome to the Sense Sphere, our second time, our proper first live one on YouTube, I hope. I can see people in the thread. I'm trying my best. I'll come on and say hi to you. I've seen a few of you. So thanks for coming on. We feel very supported. It's a lovely world fandom sometimes. So thank you. We're going to try our best to actually entertain and inform and do all the best we can. So welcome to Sense Sphere. This is obviously, it's probably the 100th review of Giggle on stream, isn't it? I've seen plenty. I'm sure you've seen plenty. We're going to try and have our little version of it, a little slant on it. 3 of the panel are ex-teachers, and we were haunted for many years by Ofsted inspection reports. So we're going to do our version of an Ofsted inspection report on RTD and the BBC every time he broadcasts an episode. So please go with us. The gimmick is there. We will be the inspectors. And so with that in mind, the fact that we're going to inspect, dissect and respect every episode, this one being Giggle, I obviously need a damn good team to come on. So I'm going to invite them on. And the first one on was my old mucker, John. So hello, John.
Hello, and Elsie.
And Elsie, it's a twosome here. So John, of course, I'm going to ask for your rating because unlike other shows, what we said is, we respect the audience. You might not hang around. So we're going to really give you the burning issues at the beginning, the controversies at the beginning. We're going to argue at the beginning. And so I'm going to ask each of our panel as inspectors, having seen the episode, what is their overall judgment? So if you can, well, reveal the scores for you.
How are we rating again, Brendan?
Yes, thanks for the reminder. I do have captions here because not everybody in the audience was an actual inspector. So we've judged on, was it an outstanding episode on certain criteria? Was it a good episode? Was it needing improvement? Is it in special measures? So you've only got a choice of 4. Where would you go on that one, John?
I would like to almost... This was difficult, but I'm going to stick by my initial thought, which was I'm rating this episode good.
Good. So let's bank that.
Outstandingly good.
So there's John, Inspector John, who's gone for good overall. Now, he might change his mind by the end. We want to argue the toss here. So
I like my titha. It's a lovely titha.
So basically, what was your main reason? Because everybody watching us now has actually also watched the episode. What's your main reason why it wasn't outstanding?
Well, I'll tell you why. Doctor Who's job is to put me on the edge of my seat. The combination of story, character, exciting music, all that excitement and jeopardy going on. This got me almost to the edge of my seat. I wasn't teetering, I was poised. Just a couple of inches more from my pert bottom, inches more would have teetered, and that would have made it outstanding. But we weren't quite there yet. So all the factors are there, got me towards the end of my seat in a way that Doctor Who hasn't for years now.
Okay.
Well, that's why I'm rating it a good. But there's still more of my seat to teeter on.
Yeah, and as I bring in 2 more panelists, everybody who's watching us, remember straight after I've had these early assessments, we're going to go straight into the big burning issue, which I think is no surprise for anyone, which is the Bigeneration and actually the TARDIS creation. So we're going to go right into the fight at the beginning. So stick around for the next 2 minutes while I bring on the next 2 panelists. So the next one, of course, he was with us the other night and, made his debut with us as well. So hello, Hugh.
Hi. Right, so I'm going to do the rating based on ignoring the Bigeneration stuff which I think is separate and affects my whole judgment on it. But my rating on it would be needs improvement. The main reasoning behind that is that I thought that the story was a mess. I thought it was entertainingly done, and I didn't feel the jeopardy. I was sort of like at the back of my seat. I'd say I was entertained, but bemused by the story being quite as holy.
Right. Thanks for that. That's so needs improvement. Hey, John, thank God he wasn't an inspector for us. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to mess up. Oh, yeah, right. There's going to be trouble tonight, I can see. So our next friend coming on was also a former teacher. So welcome, Lee.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Lee. So your judgment from the heavens in County Durham?
I'm going to go with good, but there's elements there of what Hugh and John have both just said that rang true with me. But I want to go with good mainly because of the positivity that ran through the whole programme. Was I on the edge of my seat? I wanted to be. There were times when I was, but generally, yeah, I lost it a bit. And there's a few points there I'd love to come back to at some point in our discussions.
Certainly. So that's the gist of it, everybody. You can see where we've gone from. Oh, yes, by the way, I'll remind myself. I've rated it good. I won't go into all the reasons yet, but the Jeopardy one, I agree with Hugh on. I'll stick with that one on Jeopardy, the lack of Jeopardy, and I do have an issue with that. You could argue building up the toy maker to be such this omnipresent being, and then he loses with a game of catch was a problem too, I would suggest. So little things like that, or should I say major things like that. So I'm just going to kind of tidy up the board here. So we're going to move into our burning issue of the day. And this is, I'm sure, where there's going to be some discussion and lively debate. So let's move over to the burning issue itself. Dramatic enough. Dramatic enough. So, how much do you have today? I know. So we're talking about the bi-regeneration, the bi-TARDIS. Now, who wants to start off on this? Because I have to say, I am actually more offended by the bi-TARDIS creation with some big sledgehammer thing that made me think I was watching a later episode of Rent-A-Ghost when it really started wrong. Remember that? I hope our American viewers, please look up Rent-A-Ghost. In the early series one, Rent-A-Ghost was quite serious. It was really good.
Oh, it was better in season one.
Then it started to go fantasy and stupid and pantomime. And as soon as Ncuti Gatwa, Doctor Number 15, got that enormous showground size hammer and whacked our TARDIS, our precious TARDIS at 60 years old in the program, and then suddenly created a second one. Talk about lack of jeopardy and lack of drama. So where does, you don't have to start with the TARDIS. Where do people want to start off? Over to you.
Right, so I'll go. I've watched it again, and I'm slightly less upset about the fact that there was a bi-regeneration. The problem I've got with it is this is the alien that's been wandering around for 60 years of television, for however many hundred and thousands of years in fiction. I just don't see him ending up in a garden in Chiswick. It just seems wrong, and obviously you then have the fact that if he's there, he's just down the road from UNIT, who would then call him up and stuff like that. I did have a thought about this, that in one sense there was one thing I thought they could have done which would have been self-referential and also referential to a progenitor of the Doctor, in terms of Sherlock Holmes, and have him go and look after bees, which would also have tied in with the bees disappearing. And I might have bought something like that, but that scene in Chiswick was just teeth grating.
I'm going to have to get you that seat. I couldn't afford that garden in Chiswick. I was jealous of that. And he has a very nice TARDIS in the corner. I mean, I'd love a police box in my back garden.
Oh, wouldn't we
However,
all?
I get your point. Mind you, the family he's with, I do remember the John Pertwee Third Doctor, desperate to leave planet Earth and modern Earth. He was bored. He was frustrated. He hated his exile. And Joe Grant understood that. Meanwhile, we now have Donna Noble saying, come and stay with us, have a pie, have a pasty. And, you know, it just seemed very strange, didn't it, for us Doctor Who fans? Anyway, shut your mouth, Noble. Who's next?
John, do you want to jump in?
I'll happily wait. Lee, off you go.
Well, I want to be sort of positive and sort of hedge my bets and think, is this a positive thing in terms of future possibilities for the Whoniverse? In that, I would like to see some sort of 1 hour, 2 hour special feature length episode with Tennant's Doctor and Donna in. Maybe something that's put out post Watershed and actually can go a lot darker than they're able to with the demographic that they've currently got.
You're going to have a problem, Lee.
Go on, Brendan.
You're going to have a problem, Lee, with that, aren't you? The way he's going with fantasy and slapstick and nonsense.
Well, that's why I'm sort of hoping it's going to be separate too. We're going to have a little separate franchise that's maybe we get once a year, every 2 years, some kind of Tennant special that actually can delve into much deeper and darker aspects of Doctor Who without having to worry about the demographic that maybe the new Doctor's going to have to think about.
The snag with, I mean, you know, I'm going to jump in a lot more, Lee. The snag with this now, and I agree, the spin-off, a bit like Torchwood, could be a bit more adult, you know, Adult Who or something. The trouble is, they've destroyed the 14th Doctor. He's this emasculated, fragile, weak, tired, lacking resilience sort of bloke. And so I don't want to watch his series. What, I'm going to watch all his counselling sessions? I don't fancy it.
Have you done?
Oh, I'm charged up, John. Oh, look.
Have you done? Have you finished?
Ranty man, yes.
Have you finished?
Are you going to do your 5 gold rings?
No. That's it for Friday nights.
Go on, John.
Listen. Just calm down, dear, as somebody once said. Just, you know, and grab your pearl necklace on a different night. Nothing new has really happened with this. Now we can unpack what's happened to the 14th Doctor and how he's ended up with an old Temple family, whatever they want to call themselves. We'll get to that shortly. But in terms of what actually happened during the course of that episode, it isn't much different from what's occurred previously in Doctor Who. In fact, I've only actually watched the episode once. I deliberately wanted to let it sink through and see what happened rather than constantly rewatch. But I'm reminded of the fact that this was a bit like Legopolis in reverse, because at the beginning of Legopolis, what we have are 2 Doctors, as we ultimately find out, who become 1 Doctor. During the course of this episode, we have 1 Doctor who becomes 2. So in terms of the canonicity and in terms of protecting the legacy of this programme, Russell T Davies isn't doing anything really that hasn't been done before in terms of playing with the concept of regeneration. In fact, even before Legopolis, when the 3rd Doctor regenerated, and we got, when it first became known as regeneration, we were reminded of it by the Kanpo Rinpoche and Cho-Chi characters. So again, we had 2 aspects of the same person existing in the same place at the same time. So Russell T isn't really producing anything new here. He's dipped into the canon and he has done something different with it. If you want to then talk about why did he do that, apart from playing with the format, because he can do, because he's the sort of god of Doctor Who now, if you like. He decides what is and what isn't, and what comes next. But his reason, if it was just solely to give the Tennant Doctor a happy ending and a suburban type ending, I would agree. It seems very silly. It seems very, very strange indeed. I think what we have is a built-in fallback position here, in that if, for example, we ever reach a situation where the shooty Doctor doesn't work, the program has to be reset again, then they can go Dr. Donna. Or alternatively, there's an alternative Torchwood-esque Unit spin-off featuring the 14th Doctor and Donna. An alternative, you could even stretch it to think that what he effectively did when creating the 14th Doctor, who may still be able to regenerate, was explain who the curator was in The Day of the Doctor. And that there's now an alternative Doctor floating around out there who may well degenerate and work his way backwards.
Just to say, I've seen comments from Russell Davis where he's argued that with the Bigeneration, every other Doctor now exists with a TARDIS as well.
Yes, and
I wouldn't be at all surprised with that. Sorry, yeah, because again with the Bigeneration, the Bi-TARDIS thing, at the end of the 5 Doctors, which everyone rates as one of the, if not the best, anniversary special of Doctor Who, at the end, each of the available Doctors climbs into a TARDIS, and a TARDIS comes away from the other TARDIS. So again, if you don't like the mallet bit, fair enough, I get that. It's a bit pantomime-esque, a bit comic, but nonetheless, one TARDIS shooting off from another is something that was done 14 years ago in the 5 Doctors.
But he should. I mean, the point you brought up here, here's the 2 quotes from the Daily Telegraph. And
that well-known organ of truth.
But Russell Davies does say it in the commentary too. He does actually make a case for this. I think all of the Doctors came back to life with their individual TARDISes, and they're all out there traveling around in what I'm calling the Doctorverse. So McCoy woke up in a drawer in a morgue in San Francisco. Pertwee woke up on the floor of the lab. Colin Baker got up and sorted the Rani out. These brain-bending possibilities come on the heels of iPlay's spin-off series, Tales of the TARDIS. I knew he'd link it with that memory TARDIS. Time streams are funny things. In some I regenerate, and others I don't. It's all a matter of perspective. The point I want to bring you back to, John, I understand, because we all saw the 5 Doctors, and it was a nice trick. We all like TARDIS action. But I'm coming back to Hugh's point. Where's the jeopardy? The Doctor will never die. When it's a regeneration episode, it's like a share farewell tour. It's just a goodbye episode. They don't die. They continue. What's the point? Why would anybody... What we were all saying about this 3rd special is, the ratings might go up because it's a regeneration special. But if they don't actually die and they always continue, what's the blooming point of tuning in?
And I dare say those people who bothered to read that article in the Daily Telegraph will have the rest of Doctor Who spoiled for them. But most of us who didn't and won't have it spoiled for us, because as far as we're concerned, come the next regeneration, and there will be one again, that the 15th Doctor will die in our hearts and in our heads. Yeah. That's just what will happen. Listen, hold on. You can choose you can follow every stream or strand of what a showrunner thinks and does or says, but you can also choose to ignore it. And if he chooses to tell us they're out there doing their own thing after the particular thing that led to the regeneration, fine, I can choose to ignore that, and he'll also be happy with that. I would much rather talk about whether or not it was purposeful to give Tennant the 14th Doctor the garden retirement that he's ended up with, the garden leave he's ended up with, because I don't think that's a particularly heroic ending. That's more of a fault of the story than the Doctor just... ultimately, the Doctor is a fantasy series. And you put whatever he likes, say whatever he likes, but we can just choose. When a Doctor goes, we know he's gone. He may well come back. And remember, if you want to even accept what Russell Davies has said, whenever we've seen the Troughton Doctor or the Pertwee Doctor later on, they've all looked older. So he could also justify that.
Go on, Hugh. I know you're dying to get in there, Hugh.
No, well, it's just it relates back to the whole question of canon as well. That the vast majority of people who will watch this and stuff like I'm not even capable of wondering what percentage of it would be. Some 99.9% will never have listened to a Big Finish episode.
That's me.
And there's lots of stuff in Big Finish audios which does stuff like this, which does lots of time bending, Doctor bending stuff. That
I'd like to see that.
It's sort of kind of. I thought we got a bit with that with the Bigeneration.
We almost did. That was the previous episode,
But there's a lot of stuff out there, and John's right about that this might not impact anyone, and there's a lot of stuff that lots of people don't listen to, haven't watched, They haven't read novelizations. They haven't listened to the audio stuff. So yeah, I think it opens the door for certain things, but it doesn't mean that the television series goes one way or the other.
No.
Are we at a bit of a point where, I don't know, it feels like it's all to play for in a bit? Like maybe Russell T's thought, right, I've got a bit sick of this, or woe is me, doctor. I need to get rid of that somehow. So actually, I'm going to send him off to a back garden and he's all going to get better and all the rest of it. And I want to take the doctor in a new direction, sort of healed, moved on, ready to go on to some other points. And that maybe some point in this franchise future, we're going to get David Tennant and Donna coming back, and we're going to have a more heroic end to his time as the Doctor, full stop. I mean, we know that they never die. Anytime you do play on that, like it's been done in the past, oh, the Doctor's dead. A few episodes later, oh, surprise, surprise, he's not.
Yeah.
That's never an element that's ever going to work.
Lee, they've been doing that with the companions as well, all throughout the Moffat era. They died, but they didn't really. So the notion that Brendan was saying that there's no jeopardy anymore because these deaths can be undone. We know the Doctor's never going to die. So if there's not really any jeopardy there.
If I told the viewers that we, as inspectors, we are going to judge this episode not just on the controversy here, but we're going to judge it on 3 areas of criteria, and I'll show everybody, don't worry. But one of them that bothers me is engagement with the audience. That's one of our criteria. And I'm sorry, but as has been mentioned, if you take away this jeopardy, and the ending for the 14th Doctor was appalling. When you had the 2 of them stood together, Ncuti the 15th was the stronger, more dynamic, vital one. And you had this very weak, fragile, tired. He was a William Hartnell-esque. And there was no heroic element. There was no self-sacrifice like in the case of Androzani. There was no self-sacrifice like in the end of Logopolis. There was no self-sacrifice like at the end of the Planet of the Spiders. There was none of that heroic end. What you had was, I'm going to do some weeding. Honestly, it was just shocking to see that. I'm shocked that David Tennant, I assume David Tennant agreed to come back without seeing the script, because to be delivered 3 specials and culminating this one where he ended in such a crybaby, he needed a hug off Ncuti in the end. It was like he delivered a baby.
We're now debating something else here. Okay,
well, I'm debating by regeneration.
Hold on. But are we debating how the regeneration was scripted, or the whole by regeneration thing? What are we debating here? Because I'll take issue with the fact that he didn't have an heroic death. No, he didn't. That's absolutely correct. But that doesn't change what I think about
the point I'm making, though, John, is that the by regeneration took away that sacrifice element. The bit before that, if you think about it, RTD made a decision. I mean, I'll get the shot up. The laser going through the David Tennant 14th body was very dramatic, and he was in stasis. And I thought it was a very harsh shot of the death of one of the Doctors. And then instead of just regenerating with Mel on one side and Donna on the other, suddenly he splits in 2, and the by-regeneration idea spoils that kind of heroic quality, really, because he was still alive and he wanted to go and do some garden leave.
No, well, that's a different issue. You're talking about the last 10, 15 minutes of the programme where the 2 Doctors are working together. Essentially, what you've got is a multi-Doctor story, but you've not got the present Doctor and past Doctor. You've got a present Doctor and a future Doctor. So to that extent, he's stretching the format again. He's doing something different with it, and that's to be commended. I agree with you at the end of it. The Doctor goes and retires and he sits in a garden in Chiswick. Yeah, get all that. That's all true. But Russell Davies did something different. He gives a multi-Doctor story with a future Doctor as the current Doctor. And one of them, as happens in these things, has to take a back seat. Because Ncuti was the future, he managed to get the lion's share of the action. And let's forget, the Tennant Doctor was created, the 14th Doctor was created as a palate cleanser for this new iteration. Yeah. After the disaster was the Chibnall era. So he's done his job. And so it was up for the last half an hour, or however long it was in that episode, to showcase the 15th Doctor. And I'm sure Tennant would have been cool with that, as indeed was I. The last 5-10 minutes, yeah, the garden thing, I'll take issue with that, but not the other stuff.
Yeah,
Sorry, I just meant to connect two things here and say, I think what Lee said about sort of cleaning out things is important. And I think the stuff that he did with Shooty was not just about sort of what happened with Chibnall, but also the fact that the Doctor, ever since he came back, has been suffering from post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
And this is one way, I think, of getting rid of all of that, I hope.
Yeah.
And it will just be mad and slightly joyous.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. I want that line to be drawn. I want let's leave all this behind now, because it's been hammered and hammered and hammered. And it sort of gives the chance for him still to have this heroic death in some spin-off. But I think, as everybody said, it really gave Shooty a leg up. And I think he needed that, because the reins had to be handed over. Tennant was hugely popular, still is. But I think Shooty needed that leg up and say, right, this is yours now. We're really focusing on you. You're coming across as strong. I really engaged with him. I really warmed to him in that short, 10 minutes? But I also really loved, and that sums it up, that image actually, I really loved the hug, because normally when we get the Doctors all brought back together again, there's a lot of antagonism. And I'm sick to the back teeth of antagonism in programs. It seems to drive everything. And I think the thing that, although I wasn't frightened by the episode, and maybe because it's been called the Giggle, maybe we weren't supposed to be, what worked for me was the positivity. All of the characters were respectful and liked each other. Yeah. The women weren't bitchy to each other. They were really good with each other. They respected each other. The two Doctors loved each other. And that, when I watched it the second time, that really came through for me once I'd got past my first watch and, oh, actually, I'm not scared by this, and I'm not sure about the German accent or the spice up your life bit. And that really stuck with me. I watched it the second time and I thought, oh my God, this is so positive. And we need stuff like this. And I'm really glad that he went all out, because there was so many strong and powerful elements in there that I began to then look for. And I felt enlivened and thrilled. And I'm now from next Doctor, where are we going to go here? I'm actually excited. I want Christmas Day to come. And it's going to feel like, for me anyway, back in the 70s when we got the Christmas Day Doctor special. And it was something to look forward to. And for a change, I'm looking forward to the Christmas Day Doctor Who special.
So it's done its job then?
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. It's done its job.
You make a lot of good points there. And I agree with it. It's a shame for the 14th Doctor. And there are possibilities. It's not over. I agree.
I hope so. I genuinely hope so.
I agree. It has massively launched Shooty, because he did come across as energetic, dynamic, young. You know, really
nice legs,
big time.
Nice legs.
Yes, and he's obviously, and he does his laundry. I mean, he uses, is it the Purcell automatic or the Daz automatic?
Yes, I think Shooty's doing the Daz doorstep challenge.
He does it very well, I tell you what.
Whiter than white.
This was on Doctor Who Infinity on the community page, John. They said this is one possibility because they don't die now. Look at that. On the 70th anniversary special, we could have the 5 10th Doctors. There you go. And
good, Brendan. Good for them. Have fun with it. You know, as Hugh said, for the 99.9% of people who do not watch, read, listen to all this other stuff, there's a new Doctor. It's a new start. Whether the other Doctors are serving behind the bar of the Queen Vic, or out in curries or whatever it is, sweeping the streets, whatever. It doesn't matter to them.
Now,
you know, he's played with the format. He did a good thing. And we haven't mentioned the point that I made. He gave us the first multi-Doctor story, which was as a present and a future Doctor. And I think that was really pushing the format a little bit and trying something new with that. So when people said, "Oh, we didn't get Matt Smith back or Peter Capaldi back for the 60th," no, we didn't, but we got the present and a future Doctor trying something different, and that's to be commended.
I did like that. I'm kind of hoping that Tennant will get himself sorted in terms of the Doctor Tennant will get himself sorted, and that there's maybe some space for a Shooty and Tennant, you know, bringing those back together, because I think Doctor Who always works best when you've got fantastic banter.
I think Tennant may be popping into. I think Tennant may well be popping into any proposed unit spin-off. I've got that notion in my head.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Yeah.
Can I? While we just everybody who's sticking with us at the moment, you can see I'm impressing myself here, folks, because I've never done it before. Thank you. The chat is going wild here. Thank you, everybody. I'm trying to read you at the same time and keep it going. But there was one other element of the burning issues that we needed to talk about, which is the by TARDIS, because it did happen. And if I just get the actual shot up, I mean, what are people's true thoughts about this? If I went round, is it okay to go showground?
Yes, fine. It's fun. It's fun. Get over it. It's fun.
It fits in with the giggle and the whole toy thing.
Yeah. So it was a bit cheesy, but when Doctor Who been bad for being a bit cheesy, and it did make the point which the Dr. Tennant made, which is that he wouldn't be able to exist without the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And it was my first thought. I thought there's only one TARDIS, that can't work. And so I think it was it was a quick, easy way of getting around it. It then does create a whole question about other adventures and stuff like that. But yeah, there's no way on earth I could see, or no way on Gallifrey where you could leave the Doctor without a TARDIS.
No. And you know something? Nobody would be complaining if at some point during the course of the end of this episode, the 14th or the 15th Doctor had emerged from the TARDIS with some big, spangly, flashy lit keyboard and pressed a few buttons and spun a few wheels, and another TARDIS sort of came away from the original TARDIS. It's the whole Hammett and Mallet thing that seems to be annoying people because they see it as, I don't know, too comic, too pantomime, whatever. My view is get over yourselves. It's Doctor Who, for goodness sake.
Hold on.
The kids would have loved it.
The kids would have loved it. I'm going to say it was like Bewitched. Wiggle your nose and do what the hell you want. Because what we do need to debate, John, and I know what you're saying. I know we're the older ones, and it's for the kids, so to speak. I get that.
No. I'm not saying that. I said the kids would have loved it. It's for everybody. But what we have to be is, just because something new is done and it does look a bit comic and pantomime, you just imagine yourself sitting watching Doctor Who in the 70s and the 80s and watching something, and you're with a parent or a grandparent watching it with you. They would have said, "Oh, that's just stupid." In the same way that we're now sitting watching something and saying precisely the same. It doesn't matter how he does it. He did it, and it was fun.
I think it indicates one thing that's happening, which is we've moved maybe from the Doctor Who wanting to be closer to sci-fi element to it's really gone for the fantasy.
Yeah, I think so too. Yes,
magic. It's gone for the Harry Potter magic wand element. Wow. And there's a few notes going on here. If you just want to see the notes, garbage. The hammer part was absolutely stupid. How would Shooty know? Could have been done an infinite number of ways. Maybe the Doctor looking, searching for a second TARDIS, not whacking it with a Looney Tunes. Do you know one thing that came across? And I do want to say jeopardy, though, all the time. You are supposed to be creating a fun episode, agreed, and this can hit some of that, but surely the episode is supposed to create some tension. Can you imagine the scene when the David Tennant Doctor, can he give up the TARDIS? Instead of us getting the hammer out and just making a second one like a Fisher-Price toy, there's actually a discussion. There's a bit of dramatic tension. There's a bit of pathos. I just thought, yeah, the kids would have loved it. I agree with you, John, but we've missed a bit of tension again. And I think some ways we're going for entertainment. And where does the tension and that kind of thrill come from?
As I said, get over yourself.
Well, you can say that, but that's not an argument point, is it?
It is absolutely an argument because it's happened now. He's done it. You might not like it. I don't mind it. Would I have done something better? Would I hope for something better? Probably. But in effect, it's a plot device. And whether he uses a whizzygig or a mallet, it amounts to the same thing.
But
He
John,
had
wouldn't
so much to do in that episode. I think he's thought, what's the maximum can we do? Can we just get this bit out of the way? There's thousands of different ways and better ways of doing it, but it kind of links in with the giggle. I tend to think, and I didn't originally, that this was just meant to be a light-hearted episode. He certainly held up a social mirror to us all. He pointed out a lot of social commentary. Some elements that he put in that I didn't like, I can sort of like reverse think and think, actually, again, was he holding up this mirror to us all? I don't know. I think there's more to come. I think we've got to hold fire on being, is it respectful to Tennant's Doctor? What's next? Have we got more things to look forward to? Has he done as much as he can in one episode, because he's had to wrap up an awful lot, introduce a brand new Doctor? He's left himself with the opportunity to develop that further. And I'm kind of hoping we're going to get that. And maybe we might get more pathos for the Dr. TARDIS relationship. I certainly loved, there was a bit at the end, which I thought was full of pathos, where one of the, I can't remember which character it was, said, "Where's he going?" And we had Tennant, and it was everywhere. Good luck. That really hit home for me, that moment. It was a tiny snippet, but I absolutely loved it. I thought there was so much pathos in that.
Now, as everybody, we've got 11 people here watching us, 36 minutes in. Thank you. And that was our burning issues, and we haven't even got going on the rest. Can I just say, folks, we want to be aware that we want to give it our lot. Me, John, Hugh, Lee, belting each other here verbally. But what we want to say then is, I tell you what, the reason I liked it as being the giggle, and John knows I'm going to do this, is look, I can be the toy maker. Hey, this is what I really like. That is my favorite. Yeah. So
that was a real horror moment, that.
I loved it. I'm going to do it again, I'll tell you at some point.
You almost disturbed my beautifully coiffed hair.
Wow.
What I want to say to everybody is we're going to change pace for a second before we start judging other elements of the episode. Within that episode, we had characters, and I want to bring some of those characters out, and we can discuss the characters very quickly, not how they acted, but basically the representation. So we're going to play a little bit of what you recognize as Snog, Marry, Avoid, but I've instead called it Rose for Snog, and I've called it River for Marry, and I've called it Romana for Avoid because she was a bit of a cold fish. So here we go.
Ooh, Romana.
Bit of a cheeky kiss there at the end. So our first example, and you can just fire in here because I'm not going to labour the point, but basically you've got a choice of 3 characters here: Snog, Marry, Avoid. You've got the toy maker himself, you've got good old Mel, and you've got Colonel Ibrahim, as he's called, who works for UNIT.
Oh, that's easy.
I'm struggling.
We're supposed to be a bit higher level than that, matey. So I was going to say then, I mean, for example, the toy maker, if he stays omnipresent and doesn't play with ball games, you know, like on council estates where they're always banned, he would actually do very well for himself. But he might be quite handy to basically marry, because he would get you out of a fix, all right, you know.
I was going to say I'd marry the toy maker because he might be a sadist and a serial killer and, you know, a very wicked and evil man. But my God, he's got balls.
Mind you, what did they say about that? If he turns you into wood and everybody would, you know, wakes up to morning. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. I'm glad you went there, so I didn't have to.
Yeah. Well, no. I left a blank. But anyway, so we're gonna have to pin this down. Snog, Marry, Avoid. Rose, River, Romana.
The toy maker. Avoid, definitely. Romana, Avoid.
I'm a river on this. So in terms of that, John knows my wife. I like a challenging marriage. I can't imagine anything more challenging than someone doing that. I do like to play games now and again, and that's fine. So yeah, river.
For the
Well,
toy
on you,
maker,
John.
yeah.
What's your decision then on the three?
So I'd avoid the Colonel Ibrahim because I don't like the military. And that's it. So I'd Snog Mel.
Snog the
So that
Colonel, marry
It's a-
Mel, and avoid.
It's a redhead thing, isn't it, Hugh?
it's a redhead thing. Yeah.
I don't think I can't remember what I've said. I think I would be. I think it would be Snog Colonel Ibrahim. It would be
You don't say.
I know. Well, I need. Mind you, I should marry him, and because military and very organized, and you know we could sort of get easy. But toy maker marry. Sadly, I know avoid Mel. Gosh,
You're going to avoid Mel. Wow.
I know. I'm going to be knacked here. Right, one more little quick go before we really get into being inspectors again. You see, we've got to liven it up because even inspectors have a break. Right, next one then. Here we go.
Oof.
So for the viewers out there, you've got Mr. Banerjee. He was called. He was. Oh God, that scene. I'm sure we're going to talk about that scene later.
In the bag. Yeah.
Banerjee, obviously Kate Stewart, and obviously good old Donna Noble. I'll just start off while you're thinking because obviously I'm a noble, so really I can't marry Donna Noble. I'm a noble anyway, so she's out. I would probably marry Mr. Banerjee and a nice kiss of Kate Stewart, but I'd have to avoid a sibling or somebody of a family kindred spirit. That's my goal.
Yeah,
Right. So
I think I would.
it's a redhead who has strong opinions. So I'm already married to one of those. So that's
It's a no-brainer.
I river Donna undoubtedly. Again, I'll stay away from the military in terms of that. So that's Romana and Kate Lethbridge, which leaves me snogging Mr. Banerjee.
Yeah.
Well, you don't. Did you say, Lee, what you were doing?
You're going to hate me for doing it because it's a cop-out, but I think I'd marry them all.
Oh, heck. What?
I think they've all got something to offer in a healthy marriage. So if we make up what would you call a four-way marriage? There's probably an official term.
Illegal.
Greedy, selfish.
Illegal.
Quadrilateral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can't make a decision, you.
No, and I always
You are
complain
doing
when
it.
you do that on judge panel programs as well, and here I am.
Here you are. Right.
John,
thank you.
What would you do, John?
Yeah, thanks, Lee, for remembering me. He's too busy. He's too busy with his hand on the knob. Get your pictures back up.
Do you want to? What do you want to do?
Get your pictures back up. I want to see.
Okay.
I thought you would challenge him. He said he likes a challenge.
Yeah.
Right. Let me just get them back then. Hold on.
Well, I would have Mr. Banerjee. The reason, and Hugh will again. I would marry Mr. Banerjee.
You'd marry Mr. Banerjee.
Yeah, because I, like me, a handsome, attractive man who dresses very, very well. And
Looks
Hugh
good
will
in a
understand
suit.
the significance of that in my life. I would snog Kate, I think, purely because of the connection with my favourite original Doctor Who character, Alistair Lethbridge Stewart, and I would avoid Donna because she is a noble.
Oh, she is. Mind you, I hope you're going to treat Kate Stewart better than actually the Toy Maker did. He whacked her against the wall, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I gave her, for dancing, I gave her a Savan.
So, folks, and they've stuck with us. Thank you for that. We're really now changing the pace again. We are Ofsted inspectors. We're now going to start. It's open season. I just give you a big title. And of course, the first big title that we're going to judge it on is criterion number 1. There's 3 of them for those out there thinking how long we'll discover. So it's the safeguarding of the program. So if I said it very quickly, folks, what our gist is, we're looking at the whole episode and we're talking about is what happened in the program safeguarding the program's spirit, the program's character? Is it safeguarding key characters' consistency? And I know that sometimes you've got to do something different, but the point is, did it feel safely like Doctor Who, open to the floor?
Right. So we go back to the fact that I have real problems with the plot. I then thought about it and thought about the original Celestial Toymaker and the problems with the plot. I think Russell did a very good job of mirroring and doing exactly the same problems yet again. I think it's very difficult when you get sort of ephemerals, eternals, or whatever, who have this godlike ability to do things and break the rules of science to make anything that makes sense. 57 years ago, it was a bit challenging and also a bit racist. And obviously, he kept the racism in deliberately.
Oh, yeah.
So from that point of view, it seemed to be as bad a story as the original, with the original racism, although this time deliberately, and overall kept the problems that these type of characters always have about motivation.
Yeah, and that tends to be the problem with modern Who, unfortunately, is that each successive villain has to be the bigger threat than the preceding one.
Yeah.
And that's always got to be the biggest threat, the greatest danger, the greatest jeopardy that the Doctor has ever faced. And there's only a point where you can get to where you stop listening to all of that, because it is what it is. It's just hyperbole. And I think probably, Brendan, for once in your life, you were right earlier on when you suggested earlier that we're going down a more fantasy route now. And I would imagine that characters like the Toymaker are going to be increasingly prevalent in Doctor Who. I notice that a drag act called Jinx Monsoon is going to be in the next series. And I imagine it could be something associated with music and godlike, whatever. I won't be at all surprised. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the return of Sutek or the Guardians along these lines. But the only issue with that is if you create a huge, big bad for the Doctor to defeat, if he does it too easily, 5 minutes from the end, you're into the law of diminishing returns then. And people know, well, although you're setting up the jeopardy, you are really setting up, we know it's going to be solved very, very quickly, very, very easily in order to squeeze in all the comedy, the songs, and whatever else he's going to put in. Much as I like all of that, I still want it accompanied with a really good story. And I tend to agree, although the Toymaker, it was right that he was defeated by a game, because the original Toymaker was as well.
Yeah.
I still think it happened a bit too soon. I would have preferred a bit more to that.
Yeah. I didn't feel particularly threatened by the Toymaker, and this probably says more about me than the actor's portrayal of the character. But as soon as he started talking in a German accent, and I understand there may be a reason for that, and that he's holding up a mirror again, but it just made me think of Hello Hello and Benny Hill in the 70s, and maybe that's what he was trying to make us think about, just how bad the accent was. But it kind of killed the threat, because I didn't find him intimidating. The dolls I did find intimidating. I wanted to see a lot more of Spooky Sue, Stooky Sue. What was it called again? Correct me on
Stooky
that.
Bill, Stooky Sue, and the Stooky Bill.
Thank you. I knew I'd muff that up. But yeah, the Toymaker, he didn't feel overtly threatening. I didn't think there was enough weight there, and maybe again the demographic stops you from doing that. But the dolls were fantastic. I wanted to see a lot more. And in terms of safeguarding previous characters, I did think everybody had a respectful part in the program, and I really liked they were all covered and portrayed. I felt that they were all given enough time for me to think, oh yeah, it's really nice to see them back again, and there's maybe possibilities that we may see some of them some more. I would really like that.
Lee, I don't know, would you agree with me that in one episode, viewers got to know more about Melanie, played by Boding Langford, than they did through 2 or 3 seasons by the character of Yaz, because she was so underwritten or badly written, call it what you will.
Yeah.
And he has a real talent, Russell Davis, in being able to get a whole lot of character description over there just in a few sentences.
In a very short, absolutely.
Yes, and absolutely does it in a
that.
way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just on the subject of the dolls, I think Hugh will probably back me up in this. The reason why Stookie Bill is called Stookie is because a Stookie in Scotland is a plaster.
Right.
When you got a plaster on your leg, a broken arm, that's a plasticast material. And so I'm sure Stookie Bill was called Stookie.
Yeah.
It was made of
which we sort of covered in the whenever John Logie Baird appeared.
Yes.
I was a bit. I'm hoping we don't do. Here's a famous character in the first 10 minutes that we never see again as a standard, because that's Isaac Newton and John Logie Baird have just appeared. So, yeah, it's. I quite liked that it was true. I just didn't see the point of it, though. So, and I will, on the subject of dolls, I suffer from pediophobia, a fear of dolls. But those ones, not so much, because it's the Victorian ones with the weird eyes and open skin. Blech.
I thought it was a fantastic effect. I loved the 3 babies coming down and then crawling back when Donna lost it. I mean, there was shock in different ways. There was the kind of haunting quality. Then there was the way she attacked Stookie Sue, and the shock of that. On the safeguarding element, and you can do this forever, and I don't want to do that, but the Celestial Toymaker obviously has changed. I hear what you say about the racial element is there, but different. I put up Benny Hill from Chitty Chitty Bam Bam, and it seemed to me we had a Bavarian touch again. The thing is that when I'm trying to understand with where the production team are going is, I understand their arguments about Davros being able-bodied, as in I understand their argument. I understand some of their arguments about various things, and I understand they think that the adjective celestial was a problem for American audiences. But I understand, doesn't mean I agree with it, but I understand what their reasoning is. However, to then make this new 2023 Toymaker switch his accent at different points. We had a kind of English gent at some other points, didn't we?
Yeah.
At some other points, he touched back into the Bavarian. And actually, I was quite shocked that RTD had actually written into the script, Z do did. And he'd actually written it like that, hadn't he, to actually do it? Because Patrick Harris said it was very hard to learn. And so on the safeguarding front, we've changed the Toymaker and we haven't. One of the things about the Toymaker that has been changed, and I think was a loss, was he was much more ruthless in the Celestial Toymaker. I mean, he really did entrap characters for eternity as puppets and toys. And in this one, Mr. Banerjee at the end gets his life back. And yet, as you remember, the soldiers, poor souls, who were defending the planet, some of them turned into balls, and that was the end of them, or balloons, or whatever it was. Some people were chucked off the end of the unit headquarters building, and we heard them thudding against the ground, and I don't think they're coming back. So again, it's just this kind of... I don't think the Toymaker actually ever compromises, and that was strange. I also thought it was a shame that the Trilogic game for 1964 looked really interesting. It was hard to understand what was going on. You just saw William Hartnell's hand and everything, but this Trilogic game, and then to see him in 2023, we saw him playing cards, and then we saw him playing throw the ball and catch. It just seemed to be a mismatch between this omnipresent, all-powerful being and how wily and clever he is. Remember, the other thing on the consistency of the character is he said, you know, he's defeated gods. He's got the master entrapped as a gold tooth. And yet, I'm going to not catch the ball.
And that's it.
Yeah. I think that was literally dropping the ball.
Yeah. The thing is, when you've got an omnipotent character, what can you do? If they're omnipotent, if they are gods, then can you beat them except maybe with another god? It just raises the stakes too far. And I can't remember who said
that. That's a very much a current problem with with Current Who is that they build these characters up both in the preamble and in the marketing, and then they're so easily disposed of. In need to chase.
On the subject of canon, in the original one, certainly his agents cheated.
Yeah.
Well, the Bunter character,
Bunter and the Carmen Silvera character.
Yes, Mrs. Hicks,
What would all three of you say to the argument? And I've seen it on other shows. I know a lot of fans are thinking it, that when you look at the three specials, and we will review the other two specials, but when you look at the three specials in their entirety, and you see that this toy maker with this omnipresent, all-powerful being, was RTD missing a trick that he couldn't have had the toy maker, the thread through the three, and therefore we had an element of an episodic nature of these, like a trilogy?
I thought the whole reason Tennant returning, or the 14th Doctor's having the 10th Doctor's face was going to be revealed as having something to be doing with the toy maker, and that's why the regeneration, regenerating his clothes as well, which, although it happened first time round, it hasn't happened subsequently. So I thought that there was a trick miss there. He chose not to do it. I think he wanted to make them stand alone, as he said. Although ultimately they weren't. They did feed into each other, and although you could watch them in isolation, I think they're better appreciated as watch them in three parts. It's the same way that they talk about they class Utopia and The Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords as a three-part story. They're not. Utopia is very different, but in order to appreciate those last two episodes, you really have to have seen Utopia. And it's a bit like this as well, just to get the sense of where the characters have come from, why they're back, why certain things are happening. You have to see them as three.
The other thing is, obviously, he set up another big bad that's even worse than the toy maker.
Yeah. And the Meek refer to as, now I don't know if it's the same person, but the Meek refer to as the boss. This is the same character,
I think we could have easily had 3 episodes out of the Giggle. There was so much content in that, so much that RT gave himself to have to get through, that probably we've lost some of the elements, like Brendan, you wanted his more heroic end for Tennant's Doctor and more pathos for him. And perhaps if he had a 3-episode arc for the Giggle, we would have got more of that. I think it could have easily have encompassed 3 episodes. We could have had so much more of everything, and possibly a more dramatic and believable, satisfying end to Mr. Harris. Not just, collect a ball, we catch a ball. We could have done something a bit more thrilling. Actually, that really does work. Something very bad's happened to him. And possibly had a bit more of the dolls as well. I did think that needed a lot more development.
More dolls is good.
More
dolls.
I mean, since we're rounding up on our judgments of the safeguarding, on the, I've knocked the celestial bit, but on the good bit, I think as fans, on consistency and everything, and I know John related it to me the other day, the reference to Mavic Chen, the gods of Ragnarok, the Time, the Logopolis, Eggs Adric, Matthew Waterhouse like that. River, Sarah Jane.
Oh, I love that. I love the reference to Sarah Jane. That was just perfect. And again, like I think what John said then about saying so much in so little, which is a real mark of how good a writer he can be.
Yes.
And that, few seconds of screen time about Sarah Jane, I just thought was fabulous, just perfectly pitched. I loved it.
And that's what I mean by, that's what makes you more comfortable with the program. It just does nice touches like that, brings it all together. Flux was mentioned, but it was as in, it's the snipping of the Flux. He brought in, I think, nearly all eras. And since this is, some fans have said, well, this is a 60th. Where was the nostalgia element? Well, it was done more subtly. I'll give him that. It was done as Amy Pond, Bill Potts, little puppets, and there were lots of references.
New interior of the TARDIS. I mean, that's a throwback to the original. And again, I thought that was absolutely delicious. It was like, oh, right, we've got, we're not so much William Hartnell at the beginning, but certainly the TARDIS that I remember as watching as a child. It just element of that, love it.
Now, what do you? On my last thing on safeguarding, I'm going to show this. Now, we also the gold tooth at the end, and somebody with red fingernails picked it up. Now, I'm going to ask you all a question because every fan's talking about it. Obviously, this is to do with safeguarding and consistency in the program. Who's picking up that gold tooth?
Rani.
Sorry?
Rani?
The Duchess.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
She's yeah.
So if Indira Varma, who was trailed as actually being in the episode in some parts of IMDb, I would have thought that is the easiest tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
What about this then? I'll just throw this in. I want nobody killing me.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't see what colour of nail varnish she's wearing.
I don't think it's red.
But it looks black, so it's going with his outfit.
Yeah.
Black and glitter. Yeah.
So we don't know what the outfit was. So given my wife's penchant for matching, that could be matching.
I'm just saying, I'm not. But
what he was doing with that really was to let us all look, everybody. For those of you who've been with this program a long time, look what I'm doing. I'm doing the same as I did before. So the master's coming back. Not saying when, not saying how, but he's coming back. That was just a little.
Yeah, so we all like that, and that's the safeguarding bit. We love that continuity. Can I
just ask how everybody's ideal master would be portrayed when we're talking about, safeguarding characters? What would you like to see the next master?
I'd like what's his face? I'm sorry, it's gone out of my head, but we all know he's a very famous actor. He played it once in Utopia.
Derek Jacobi.
Yeah, I'd like Derek Jacobi back.
Good, yeah.
Gravitas, senior gentleman playing the character,
Anybody else?
In terms of you, who I think Michelle Gomez can't be beaten. I love Michelle Gomez as Mizzy. I thought that was a lovely version, very ironic. Michelle Gomez back, please.
I think I'd like someone who plays it more sane. Yeah. Apparently. But who isn't? So I think if they tone it down a bit, but then have them lose it, I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah, I think Michelle Gomez played it fairly straight, in that she was playing loopy and she was playing daft, but she could switch it on a sixpence and become very sinister. Whereas the last iteration, Sacha Dhawan and John Sim prior to that weren't quite so nuanced. And I thought Michelle Gomez sort of hit that quite well. She can be daft and very Mary Poppins-esque, the Wicked Witch type thing, and evil nanny, but turn it like that. And there's some fantastic moments she has, particularly with Peter Capaldi towards the end of this last season when she's in the vault, which I think are just superb.
I'm just going to take 1 second, everybody. I think everybody has to do this. I have to remind myself to do this. So can I just ask all of those of you out there, please? We've amazed ourselves that we've nearly got 20 subscribers in one day. But please, thank you for your support. And, if you've forgotten to subscribe, please subscribe. We're a growing channel. We want to learn. We're enjoying the feedback. Please send us more. This can only be going places. I'm very appreciative of our fellow panelists here, but thank you for tuning in. Thanks for your chat. Thanks for sticking with us, and please subscribe and get spreading the word, please. And we'll hopefully keep moving on.
Please.
Brenda, can I just say I want to apologise to everybody I can just see scrolling down here some of the comments. We haven't, because it's our first go, and we haven't really made as much reference, so my apologies. But I'm noting everything that everybody says and agree and disagree as we go along. But
really
again, just to say thank you for your comments, everybody. Much
really
appreciated.
Relevant.
Yeah, I mean, if people are, what I'm in my first show, I'm managing to put some quotations up, and I'm really appreciating as the chat is going on. As I get better at this, I'll be able to stop the chat and relate to the items. But please, I didn't even think I'd even be able to look at the chat today, but we've done all right so far.
It's now 30 days,
The second
got-
one, I
we've
don't
got
know if this
room
is a
for
slam dunk.
improvement.
And again, I'm not going to lead it regarding there's so many areas, and it's just any areas of concern or praise. We're inspectors of the episode. Now, effective use of resources could go anywhere. Like I've just reminded the audience, visual effects, direction, music, sets, props, lighting. You know, this is the one where basically, was it a good-looking episode, a well-produced episode, a well-directed episode? Because if we're making our judgments from special measures up to outstanding, this is obviously a key area. Anybody?
So
I think the new budget can be seen. They're definitely putting the money up front. You can see the fact that there's we don't know by how much Doctor Who's increased its budget, but it's visually it has increased, and that's good because one thing I will say about the previous era, the Chris Chibnall era, is it looked good. It looked very cinematic. The use of I can't remember the name of the cameras they used, the cinematography used, but it looked very, very good. And so to have improved on that is extra special. So the money's up front. You can see that. There's been a few dodgy effects in the previous couple of episodes. I thought this was especially good. I think they've saved their powder, kept the powder dry, particularly for this one. The unit set is always going to be there to be reused, either in the program itself or in a spin-off. So they've invested heavily in that. They've also heavily invested in giving a cast of characters that can be reused in that setting. I thought the direction was pretty good. I find it harder to differentiate between modern day directors and classic Who directors because the whole studio-based system of shooting as per a theatrical performance, if you like, could be handled very well or very badly. Whereas the sort of rehearse record, what single camera shoot that they do in modern Who is very difficult to get it wrong. It can get wrong, but it's difficult to get it wrong. So you don't get the same sort of duds that you used to get in classic Who with direction. Although having said that, Rachel Talali has always been amongst my favourite of recent New Who directors. I think she gives she brings a certain sense of I don't want to say impending doom, but there's always a sense, an atmosphere building around her episodes, and she builds that very well. So I thought there was good use of resources in this. I'd be fascinated to know the budget and how it gets spent, but I dare say it'll make more money than it cost long term.
I mean, can I just add my little bit now?
No.
I mean, it does look expensive and it does look slick. You know, the Doctor Who's never looked so good. We have to be honest. But and the trick has been done before by RTD, but he does it every time. I love the moment in End of the World when Toxic came on and you saw a space station. I loved it. I think you mentioned it earlier, John, with the last was it the drums one, the master,
the sound of drums, yeah.
And I did like the Spice Girls. I did like the Spice Girls in this. What did you all think of that? Right. I mean, is it a Marmite moment? Because you bring music together, characterization and direction.
I didn't think it went far enough. I think I wanted it to really hit home, and for me it felt a bit lame. I like the jolliness of it, but it didn't hit home hard enough. I think it failed a little bit for me. I didn't think it.
Yeah.
Do you think so? I thought it was great.
No, I found it a bit repetitive. I did find it tying in a bit too much to Rasputin, and it creates one of those things where we run into the problem where the people died in the middle of that. I think that tonally didn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, I did. I absolutely did. I thought the virtue of that was here's this man monkeying around, playing games, insulting people, dancing in people's faces, and in the midst of that, he assaults 2 women and kills 2 men.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was very on point for Doctor Who. That in the midst of all this fun and frivolity, people die.
That's why I wanted that pushing further, because I think as you've just said, it's a really it's that contradiction between the lively, happy, jolly music, and actually what he's doing to people, which is really terrible. And I would have liked that just pushed a bit more to really emphasize that.
I think we might be agreeing or disagreeing violently while agreeing violently. I think it didn't go far enough, both in horror wise to underline that, and at the same time wasn't quite mad enough for me.
Well,
did you not think that the soldiers getting turned into balls, and then the big ball in her hand, and the guy screaming?
Oh, yeah.
I found that very disconcerting.
But it's just somehow the whole thing just didn't work for me. Can I just jump in about something else? Because in terms of the money, it's obviously there. But in terms of the story and in terms of the money, the thing that I nearly threw the television out for was Vlinks.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I actually thought, my God, they've managed to do something even worse than Chameleon.
Do you know what, Hugh, though? I've got a nasty feeling he's going to be part of the, like Mr. Smith. I've got this feeling.
Yes. He's got to be, otherwise it's a complete pointless thing, because we don't know what it's doing. It did this whole cheat with the fact that something that we don't know managed to invent and get produced in less than 20 seconds, however long it would take to produce those bracelets, while everyone around was going mad. So it was just, it's one of those ones where it's, we've got something, it's not explained at all, which is doing something which is impossible, which just allows the story to happen because Russell had written himself into a corner.
I know what you're saying on there, Hugh. On the whole area of looking expensive, production, direction, all the rest of it, what did everybody make of the unit base? Because that's going to be well established. It looks as though it's.
That's what I just said to you. They've obviously invested money in that because only will be back in Doctor Who, and maybe it could become a spin-off.
Very Avengers-looking tower.
I mean,
I love the reference that the 14th Doctor says to Kate. Says because it's true. He says your father spent all of his career trying to hide the existence of Unit from everybody, and now you go and build this bloody great thing and put Unit at the top of it. So,
this is probably relating back to the canon thing, but it's not, because obviously whenever Pertwee Doctor was with Unit, it was all very military, and it's not something I think sits particularly well with the character. It was a big gun.
It was a big gun.
It was a
very big gun.
Between his legs as well.
Yeah.
This is totally going off piece, and I think it might be Edwin Droog who actually just put up two of his preferential returning actors for the Master.
Yes.
And it just made me think then, if we've got two Doctors, can we have two Masters? And wouldn't that be an interesting pairing to have those in the same episode? I would quite like to see Derek Jacobi and
Michelle Gomez.
Sorry,
Michelle.
Thank you. Mind please.
Lee, we've had two Masters, Michelle Gomez and John Sam, appeared in the Peter Capaldi finale.
I didn't see it. I've got to
so they have done a two Masters story.
But I would like to see more of that kind of interplay between two evil characters.
They were very good together. They were excellent together. John Smith's characterization in that story was better than his original, I think.
Really?
His original characterization of the Master.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Moffat wrote him better than Russell Davies did.
All right.
And he had a goatee.
Yeah.
It sounds as though, as inspectors, though, of this episode, we're quite happy with basically the use of resources available. I mean, Murray Gold, to me, I've always liked Murray Gold. And the music in that episode went from, you had the lovely pathos. He really knows how to do that. And other times I've noticed in these specials, and I noticed again in the Giggle, it's going a bit Disney as well. There's a because it's the fantasy change, isn't it, John? It's changing style, and I can see Murray Gold is adapting to that, and it's a different style of music I'm hearing from him. But no, I mean, I would be rating it high on if it was just on effective use of resources. Our final criteria of judgment is engagement with the audience. And this, of course, depends on what you think the genre should be. Should this be scaring the kids, getting them behind the sofa? Should this be very dramatic, very suspenseful? Should this be a laugh? Should this be just a showpiece telly? I know you can get a blend of that, but basically Doctor Who has had all of those over the 60 years, and it's our taste as well. I think I said before the program started, or early on in the program, I said I'd like a bit more behind the sofa though for the kids, and the puppets we've all referred to, which I thought were well realised, but they were only in it for 2-3 minutes. But I think the most chilling scene for me, if I'm wanting behind the sofa stuff, was when Mr. Banerjee was turned into a wooden puppet, and he was it almost took me back to the Spider's Larder when John Pertwee and Sarah were in that mesh, and it took me back to that when he was hanging on the wall. But then when he got him on the floor and you saw he was wood, and I thought that was very chilling, and it's a shame we couldn't have had more touches like that, as well as the Spice Girls, as well as other stuff. Anyway, I'm not leading the discussion there.
I think that particular scene is probably a favourite of mine too, because the way it's shot and directed is that you realise this man is cocooned.
Yeah.
And then as he lies on the ground, you realise, hold on a second, that's not a human neck. No, it doesn't look right. And then, so it slowly dawns on you what has happened to this man, and that is and it's body horror. It's just what it is. It's horrid. I actually think it loses something when they put the tenant head on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think they should have kept it. This poor guy trapped in eternity as a puppet of the toy maker, and it does lose the thing. It becomes more of a fun joke against the Doctor then, because that's horrific.
Yes,
it is, because you think he's about to be rescued. You think this is somebody who's going to be saved, and then, as you said, it's this slow reveal that actually this is what's being done to him, and he's now got the body of a puppet and he's trapped.
It's horrific. It's truly horrific. Yeah, because from neck up, he's still functioning as Mr. Banerjee.
Yeah.
But if you switch him to Tennant, as you say, then it's not that. It's just a mental trick.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
It diminishes it, doesn't it? Yeah. I also thought, going slightly back to the use of resources on that particular scene, that was incredibly complex. I mean, his head on that body, there was never any wobbles. The way that it was all oriented and worked, it was very, very well done. I did like that.
What about?
And I like the dolls as well. You're right. Could have been longer.
Oh yeah.
But what I did particularly enjoy with that scene, it gave Catherine Tate to characterise Donna particularly well and showcase her. She's not going to be the screaming heroine in distress. That she pretty soon sort of, kicks ass, and the thing gets kicked against the wall. And I think that was very good and typical of Donna. So I like that too.
I loved Stooky Sue when she walked out of the shadows.
Yes.
And I think, as you said, Catherine Tate played that so well. Yeah. I could have watched half an hour of that.
It's Catherine Tate who I'm going to miss from these. I mean, Les Tennant, he's been a real bonus, a boon to Doctor Who over the years. But it's Catherine Tate who I shall miss, and whose return I enjoyed
really
the
developed.
most. I'll miss the most.
Yeah.
I just in one thing in terms of what happened and tying some of the stuff together. The bit where we get to see sort of the three companions who aren't dead, as is pointed out, and don't die. I wondered whether that was Russell Davies getting at Stephen Moffat's habit of not ever killing anyone.
Possibly.
What was that American line? He did Bavarian, he did English, and then the toy maker went very American and went, well, that's all right then. And
Yes.
And he did that several times. That was quite clever. I
Yes.
enjoyed that. But also, one thing we haven't mentioned is during that interplay with the cards,
yes,
he apparently, now you can take this either way, seems to retcon the whole timeless child thing, because he said he played with the master, made a jigsaw of the Doctor's past. And again, I think Russell Davies saying, you know what, you can choose to still believe that all that's the case and that Joe Martin is still one of the first original Doctors before William Hartnell, as were all those Morbius Doctors, as were all those other children you saw in that story. Or if you want to take what you will from these couple of lines here, you can now go back to believing what you always did. So I think that's cute, and I think that's all right.
Yeah,
I choose to believe it was a retcon.
I think that's fine. But on that subject, whenever they were doing Best of Three, which I think is also a reference to Bill and Ted playing against death, is there something there that's missing in terms of the actual canon? Because whenever the Doctor comes across the toy maker the first time that we see, it's the second time he's met him. So
Yeah, he has met him before. Yes,
he has met him before. So did he play a game then? In which case, it's not the best of three. And the other thing that, in terms of trying to fit stuff in, what is the whole salt thing?
yeah, I know. It was like
Yeah, I think that's going to be playing a bigger part somewhere along the line. Yeah, I've read a few things along the way that this is going to open the door to Doctor Who becoming more fantastic.
Yeah.
If you like, more fantasy based rather than science. Christopher H. Bidmead will be spinning around tonight. You know, they're going to make Doctor Who more fantasy and less sci-fi based. We won't be getting any more Argolans or charged vacuum appointments.
Well, in our last few minutes, let me throw a few bits of dialogue at you, because I do like to throw, the elements regarding that. So if you bear with me a second, here we go. Sorry, I know it's.
That sounded like Grace Brothers at the end.
I know. It was tempted. There was actually a theme tune that did almost Grace Brothers, and I was so tempted, I tell you, but I couldn't have kept it for 10 seconds. So basically, if I just throw these up now, because I'm aware of the time and I do want to be quite on the money here. So basically, first element of dialogue, it was all linked with. I do think there was I can't remember who referenced this earlier. It has been mentioned to a degree that was Russell Davies, as part of his plot message, I think it was you, Lee, as part of his message was having a go at the human race and on those on Twitter, as on those online, and saying how we all cancel each other, shout at each other, don't listen to other opinions. And so you got here, I pay my taxes, so I do what the hell I want. I'm not going to change my mind. Everybody goes mad. There's references later when we see Trinity Wells, who used to be a lovely newsreader, and suddenly now she's got her own channel, and she's obviously gone very...
misinformation.
Yeah. So what did everybody take from as in, this is just an example, but the actual message of this story was RTD, who has been, as you know, talking off air about various things and telling people tough and telling people this, that, and the other. Is he actually, as part of his master plan, saying, laugh at this episode, I'm laughing at you all because you all get triggered?
There's a lot of social commentary in it on so many levels. Some of it really overt, like Tennant's rant at the HQ words. At the HQ Units HQ. He had a real. You just made it very clear. You've got all these positive elements as a human race, but you've got all of these real negatives. And at the minute, they're all really there and on display. And if that wasn't social commentary about the human race currently, then I don't know what was. And then there was lots of subtle stuff as well.
I think you're right that's what it was doing. I think it broke the story again because I couldn't see what on earth this had to do with the toy maker. It hit Neil Patrick Harris's whole stuff about wanting to stay on Earth because people are just that devious and that stuff. And yet he created a situation where they were going to destroy themselves, which seemed completely pointless. So the jeopardy went against the story, and this is the problem with the story, is that Russell wanted to make a point but didn't write the story to do it.
Yeah. And we don't see much of this. We see it at the beginning, and then it's sort of forgotten about. So you're not really aware of the threat that this poses. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I don't know what comment he's making about this, because Russell Davies, in terms of what he does with Doctor Who, does on social media and with his other works, he does tend to fire a lot of this stuff himself, and it's done precisely to get the backlash or the comment that it gets. So the message of this is unclear. If he's are we cancelling each other and up against each other? He's been part of stoking this fire by being part of the Twitter generation who goes on afterwards and has the arms. He will on. I don't do it, but I've seen snapshots of him replying to fans.
And
deliberately winding them up because they disagree with what he's done. And that's fine within itself if that's what he wants to do. But to make a point about people having a pop at each other through this story, which then isn't much made of later on, just seems a strange thing to do when you're actually part of the problem yourself, if you perceive it to be a problem.
Now, one thing I also want to...
Can I just say what both John and Hugh both said, that I think he was trying to do too much in too little time. And so he wanted to get too many messages in, as John's just said. And then, like Hugh said also, because of that lot of stuff that wasn't covered properly, the jeopardy was lost. I think it was Kate Lethbridge's, when they took the device off her arm, that was a really well acted piece of program. And then a few minutes later, the gun was fired, the satellite was knocked out, and the problem was completely solved. There was so much mileage in that, but again, because there was so much covered in the episode, we couldn't get it's earlier, Brendan.
It's not just that it was covering the message. It was that whenever Kate takes off the ZDX, is that meant to be a ZX Spectrum reference? Don't know. She's not thinking she's right. She's paranoid.
Yeah.
It's not about people thinking they're right. So the symptom that it was showing wasn't even in basis to do with the message.
I understand. Now, I'll throw this one in because I think this pleased me, because I counted 4 references to Time Lords. Now, John earlier said that he'd maybe retconned quickly. He mentioned it in the card game, etc. And if the toy maker calls him a Time Lord, then he must be. Then the 15th Doctor, who's been through rehab, is sure he's a Time Lord. And so to me, I'm thinking, well, that seems to be reinforcing to me that the timeless child element seems to have been sidelined now, and we're back to Time Lords.
Although he's not officially come along and disrespected his colleagues' work because he's too professional to do that. He obviously didn't like it. I doubt if anybody did. But rather than sort of shit on Chris Chibnall's doorstep, he has provided himself and others who wish to find it a means to get out of all that nonsense, because it was nonsense.
Now,
it was last versions of who wanted a legacy.
And I'm sorry for talking over people because I'm looking at the time.
Fine.
Right. We have inspected an episode. We've had 3 criteria, and we've discussed the major controversy in that episode. Now, you all know what you said, from special measures, outstanding goods. If I just kind of quickly reminded you what we had, not what we'd said, but if I put the ticker take up of the 4 criteria, we can either have outstanding goods, needs improvement, special measures. Now, is anyone budging? If I go through, does anybody here think it's an outstanding episode?
No.
Right. Good. I'm going for good.
I'm going to stick with good. Yeah.
I'm going for good. The heat is on.
So that means even though, Hugh, you've got the Shirley Ballas position, which is you might disagree, but it won't count. But anyway, the truth is...
Shirley Ballas and I have so much in common.
Let's start,
What were you going to say here? What was your
No,
assessment?
I think the thing about it is that my whole take is it did need improvement. It hasn't left me that worried about the future.
No.
Yes.
So I thought it was a really bad, put together episode. It did have a lot of money. It did a lot of things. It was just a mess. But the last 5 minutes with Sooty, I thought was fine, and that's probably what I take out of it. Is I think Russell messed up big time across the whole three, but at the same time, I don't think that that's necessarily indicative of the future.
Yeah. Well, look, I've stuck. I'm 15 seconds to 90 minutes, and I said that would be our max. So we've assessed the Giggle. It's good overall. A few little niggles there, but overall, we do think it's promising for the future. We're going to stick with it. We're not cancelling. We're going with Doctor Who. And so can I thank everybody on the panel? Can I thank everybody on the chat? If I showed you the chat at the moment, folks, I don't know if you can see there. No,
you see
yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Got to say a really big thank you to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers.
Even though we've not been able
you.
to acknowledge it this time round, and that's down to us trying to get used to this. But yeah, that's been fantastic.
We've tried our best, but I think they've been very patient, and it's been really lovely to have that support. So all I'll say is we will be back on. I want to just remind it. You know, this is all advertising, isn't it? After all,
gotta do it.
We will be back on next Tuesday, 6:30. To look at Wild Blue Yonder. Will be one of those review panels who's now had plenty of time to think about this, and so we can have a proper assessment, like a proper inspection report.
Can I just say one thing then, so I can get a final joke in? Will I, during that review, be allowed to say a big hand for Wild Blue Yonder?
You will, yes. And we might be also, then we might have an appearance of a puppet. Joe Public will be joining us next episode as well. Joe Public has things to say too. So you will find Joe Public will appear in the name of Jamie.
I was hoping you were going to have a hand
there will be a hand puppet starring Jamie's hand. But thank you everybody for sticking with us.
Thank you
for your forbearance.
Thank you.
And everybody who's been watching us on stream, thank you for that. We've really enjoyed it, and it's time for a drink.
This is the celebrity.
There you go. Wave away.